I'm going to be honest, for the past few days I've been in a rut. And I don't plan on staying in the rut for too much longer, so allow me to dive back into my experience of falling into the bloody things, to outline the 8 rules you need to understand in order to get out of the rut you're currently in, and then we're going to finalise by covering the one framework which is very much like the burning bush. When you see it, you cannot unsee it. First rule of being in a rut is, being in a rut is an act of rebellion. Rebellion against what? Rebellion from whom? Well, the person doing the rebellion is, well, you might know him. He's called yourself. And one thing about this odd chap is he doesn't like being ignored, or she. So that is the first rule. You need to understand that for whatever reason you've got yourself into a rut. I don't care whether you've been fapping your life away for the past few days or something sparked in your environment that just sent you down a pit of doom. One part of you, which we usually refer to as your chimp brain, is rebelling against you in some way. But we're going to cover that in a second, how to deal with that. Rule number 2 is give yourself the benefit of the doubt. There's no one easier to hate than yourself. And newsflash, in case you haven't noticed it already, this world, this modern world that we live in, isn't exactly primed for our happiness. It's actually primed to exploit our drives and our most impulsive behaviour. So if you've spent the last few days doing something that you would usually consider incredibly reprehensible to your normal consistency of who you are, for example, doom scrolling, eating loads of junk food, fapping, just otherwise destroying your life, then understand you're up against a huge enemy, or many enemies. Social media algorithms who want to plunge you into their algorithms and never escape. Junk food companies that couldn't give a toss about your health and always present you with the fattiest, saltiest and sugariest options, which long term will kill you. Or online pornography, which promises to give you everything as a young man when in fact it actually gives you nothing. We are very much like travellers walking through a desert, dying of thirst, to which a passerby comes along and offers us a drink, but the drink is water laced with salt, making us more thirsty. That's what the modern world does, unfortunately. But despite this doom and gloom, I want to capture the idea that there are more reasons to like yourself than hate yourself. For example, those days where you manage to do even a 2-minute workout when you have the demotivation of a sloth is something to be celebrated. The fact that maybe, just maybe, depending on your hygiene levels, during this rut you've actually woken up and brushed your teeth each morning is again something to be hallelujah'd to the high heavens. And those days where you decide to not scroll before bed and go to bed early are worthy of a trophy big enough to cuddle asleep. So I just want to highlight, you're doing your best, okay? You probably don't feel like it at the moment, but you're incredibly outgunned in a world which is just not out to optimize your happiness and your meaning that you feel. Anyway, is there any more doom and gloom? Rule number 3. What was that? Acceptance paves the path forward. I don't care how long you've been in this rut, and I don't care how annoyed you are with the fact that you've got yourself into this rut. Unless you accept where you currently are, you're not going to get out of it. You really aren't. As Carl Jung said, condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. You can't change your behaviour or start moving in an upward trajectory until you have the grace to accept, I'm in a rut right now and I'm not doing too well. Little diagram for you, if I may. You cannot transcend your reality to higher consciousness until you first accept where you are. If we put HC for higher consciousness. This is where you are right now. This is where you would like to be. God level. But the path of your trajectory is dictated by this word. Acceptance. Until you accept where you are, you cannot give yourself the navigation of mapping to a higher level of consciousness. Also, what you need to understand is no event within itself is good or bad. It is only our mind which makes it so. This is one of the main things we learn from Stoicism. Shout out Marcus Aurelius, Rome's top boy. Again, you might feel like a reprehensible piece of poo for being in this rut, but it's neither good nor bad. You are the one who is labelling the experience of this thing as either bad or good. I doubt you would label it as good, but it depends on how you frame it. And when you start to understand it is the labelling that your mind performs which is making this experience either good or bad for you, then you're free to see it as neutral. Gender neutral, like my haircut. Okay, point number 4. Rule number 4 is label the chimp in the room. Yep, no elephants here. So we covered rule 1, which was being in a rut is an act of rebellion. The thing doing the rebelling, in specifics, is your chimp brain. Simplifying neuroscience, it's often said that you have 3 different types of brains. you kind of don't. They're just different brain regions. But the strongest is the chimp brain, which is your, otherwise known as your reptilian brain. That is the part of you which ultimately just wants you to survive and procreate. Your chimp brain doesn't care whether you label your binge eating as good or bad, nor does it really care whether you waste 4 hours on social media or watching naked women on the internet. It just wants to do the most impulsive thing that will gear it towards reproducing. And the thing to know about the chimp, very much like in real life, chimps are strong boys. I don't know if you've ever seen Chimp Empire or whatever it was called on Netflix. They're strong. An average chimp can outpower humans. It's exactly the same with your chimp brain, because it draws you into the present moment, which is fueled by the impulsive actions that we take and we're lulled into with social media, eating junk food, things that cater to our here and now self. But there is a way that you can navigate your chimp brain, as highlighted in The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters. I've mentioned in previous videos the utility of labelling your emotions out loud. Whatever you're doing right now, whether you're sat on the sofa, whether you're in your garden looking up at the stars while listening to my voice thinking, where did it all go wrong? I want you to start speaking to yourself out loud. And I want you to say things along this line whenever you notice the impulse to collapse arise. Oh, I feel the urge to self-sabotage. Oh, I feel like scrolling before bed. Because the thing that's doing the rebelling, the chimp, just wants attention. And you need to, I'm being dead serious, I don't want you to mistake my enthusiasm for just trying to be funny on camera. You genuinely need to negotiate with this part of your brain because it wants attention, and it is like a child. If you leave a child in a room with precious objects in it, it's going to go haywire and knock some things over. It's exactly the same with our chimp brain when it is not governed by the prefrontal cortex. That's a brain, the prefrontal cortex, if this person like has eyes, and that's its eyes. It's like the front part of your brain. I don't know why I didn't just point to my forehead. That brain region needs to govern the chimp, and it does so by top-down processing. What that means is very simply, the prefrontal cortex is what governs the chimp, and you can do so through language. Like I said, the chimp wants to be paid attention to. So you can say things like, oh, I feel like scrolling before bed. Open a dialogue with your chimp and say, listen, I really understand that you want to scroll right now and you want that short-term release because it gives us the feeling of, you know, being connected to people and being entertained and forgetting our emotions. But I do want you to understand that it would be much better if we go for a walk right now or we do some breathing, because trust me, you might not understand this right now, but in 10-20 minutes we're going to feel so much better. You need to negotiate with your chimp. People say sales is the most important skill of all. It is, because the most important person you need to negotiate with is yourself when you are collapsing. So you need to label the chimp in the room. It sounds like, it seems like, it feels like. Oh, it seems like I want to start collapsing and going into self-sabotaging behaviours. Ah, that's my chimp speaking. Chimp, remember what we did last time when we felt this way? It didn't go too well and our life ended up being a whole lot harder. But remember that one time when we put our phone down and went and did some breath work or some meditation before bed and felt so much better? This is what we're going to do now, and trust me, you're going to feel so much better after it. Get to know your chimp. I could go into it more here, but I would just recommend reading the book The Chimp Paradox. It's brilliant. Rule number 5, multicoloured, you know what I'm saying? You can choose to see this rut as an opportunity. Sounds weird. The one key for getting out of this rut and being a better person after it is you just need to understand what is one little thing you can learn as you're collapsing. And this all depends on how you frame it. The obstacle is the way, as the Stoics would say. And a little anecdote here, I remember probably 2 years ago now, my best friend Joe was really ill for a period of 2 weeks. And interestingly, when I met him after he was recovering from the illness, he said, yeah, I just feel like God wanted me to have some solitude. And I thought, that's such a powerful way to frame it. If you're retreating at the moment socially and you're collapsing into yourself, what is it you're trying to tell yourself? What downloads are you getting from the universe that maybe you could frame as a way for your benefit? Is this an opportunity for you to pull back and reassess some things that you're doing? Maybe you feel overly tired. Have you been working too much? Have you not been sleeping right? What has been going on? Here's a little clip from David Goggins, which is a bit vague, but I'll explain it after.
Okay, I failed, but I was right there. What did I miss? fuck did I miss? Oh, that's what I fucking missed. And then it happens.
Essentially, what he's saying is the Nipsey Hussle principle. Minor setback for major comeback. It's my favourite. Learn something from this darkness, even if it's just one tiny little thing. Rule number 6 is the most important one, so pay attention, get your notes out. I'm gonna write it in red. Bing bang boom. What was it again? Yes. Rule number 6, you can't control the mind with the mind, look to the body. As the saying goes, you cannot think your way into better action, but you can act your way into better thinking. First principle I ever learned from Andrew Huberman from neuroscience was behaviour first, thoughts and emotions later. Your actions dictate how you feel. There's a common saying in neuroscience which is, I'm not crying because I'm sad because I'm crying. Which is to say, you cannot rationalise yourself out of this rut. Of course, you can do many mental framing things such as not seeing it as a good or a bad thing and all of the rules that we covered before this. But at the root of getting out of it, you need to understand that you cannot solve a problem with the same thing that created the problem. You need a different resource, which is the body. You cannot think your way out of depression, but you can walk your way out of it. You can train your way out of it. You can socialise your way out of it. You can nutritionally eat your way out of it. You can brush your teeth out of it. But keep a mental note of this, because the framework we're going to finalise with in a second will capture all of this. Rule number 7 is break down the ideal. I don't know if you've ever seen the animated version of Pinocchio. Don't think there's any other version of it, but anyway, there is a brilliant scene there where after he goes off on one, and you could say Pinocchio falls into a bit of a rut by doing delinquent things and joining the island of the Lost Boys, there is a scene where one of the characters throws a stone through a stained glass window, which is a mandala, which is a very spiritual symbol of the most aligned, integrated human being, otherwise known as an ideal. And the short scene captures something that we do all of the time when we get into ruts. We think of the highest potential that we could arise to, and we look at the gap between where we are and what it would take for us to get there, and we grow miserable. So we think, to hell with the ideal, because it's too much. It is too much. So what you need to do is you need to break down your ideal. It's very easy when you're in a rut to then go on social media and see all of these clips from people who are so happy and they're living great lives, yet we know that is what social media does to us. It paints a distorted view of reality and other people's contentment, and we think, why am I in a rut? There's something inherently wrong with me. No, you just need the goals that you want to achieve, the type of person you want to be. You need to break it down. You really need to understand this and break this down to the thing that you can do right now. Like I said in the rule of giving yourself the benefit of the doubt, if you're struggling to wake up and brush your teeth at the moment, celebrate that and keep that as the goal. Just keep waking up and brushing your teeth. Doesn't matter how you feel, screw your mood, stick to the plan. Brush teeth plus shower. If that's what it takes for you to self-celebrate, then that is the goal by which you dictate your progress. Not a 2-hour workout plus 8 hours of studying. Although having said that, if you are the type of person who is very ambitious and you're just having a bit of a wobble, I would say, in a very paradoxical way, you can turn this around in the other direction, whereby even though you're in a rut and you're feeling mentally groggy and all of this stuff, set really high goals, and that will kick your ass into gear. But if your psychology doesn't really work that way, then break the ideal down. But if you want to give yourself a challenge, be really outlandish. If you usually work out for an hour a day, say, today I'm going to work out for 2 hours, and then just set that as the one goal that you're going to do. Be overly ambitious if you're up for the challenge. Because a lot of the times people say this a lot, and I've just said it there because it is true, in the sense of just break down your actions so they're really easy. But one of the reasons we get into ruts is because we don't have anything worth striving for. We don't have that sense of, oh my God, I don't have a challenge, so I'm just going to lope around because nothing is worth doing. Set yourself a really, really high goal that you can't even achieve, and then you'll start working towards it, and you'll be like, oh my God, I have direction now. Last one, more on, bloody hell, it's all kicking off. I need to wrap this up. More on the self-love side of things, because we all love a bit of self-love, don't we? Sometimes not. Should get the crystals out. Number 8, last one, counter your self-critique. One of the things that therapists do when their client is barraging themselves with all of these self-critical things, which may or may not be true, is they just get them to write up a list of all of the counter-arguments. If you currently feel unworthy, stupid, weak, unlovable, take a moment to genuinely think about periods in your life and things that you've done which would run counter to this. So I'll give you an example, right? When I'm in a rut, I feel undisciplined, I feel childish, unsocializable, and guilty. I could counter all of these very quickly. Undisciplined, I know I'm quite disciplined. Childish, I'm a mature 24-year-old man who's lived alone multiple times throughout his life. Unsocializable, I'm a very social and extroverted young man, and I've got a solid group of friends. Guilty, I'm a human being, I'm going to mess up sometimes, but no amount of guilt is going to get me out of this rut. I've also felt very proud of myself because I'm working on long-term projects. That's just an example. Okay, let's finalise with the burning bush. Right, this is the burning bush framework which will get you out of a rut. I formulated this about 2 years ago after being in a rut and thinking, how can I actually get out of it? And this is a cyclical process, which means you have to follow each step in respectable order. Number 1, behaviour first. This is what we covered earlier in the sense of you cannot fight the mind with the mind, you need to turn to the body. This means you just do something, whatever it is that you think will give you that forward momentum that will get you out of the rut. For me, what this looks like is doing some press ups, drinking a litre of water, and then going out and continuing a workout, or going on a run, putting all of my technology in the garage outside so I have none in the house and I have to sit with my emotions, or meditating, journaling, going on a walk, calling a friend, something that gets your mind off your mind and into the flow of activity. You cannot think, you have to do when you're in a rut. 2, earn your dopamine. As Naval Ravikant said, the modern devil is cheap dopamine. Now, the main reason we don't feel good after we go on social media or we watch adult content or eat junk food is because we haven't earned the right to have that dopamine. Our brain loves dopamine and obviously releases it in order to motivate us to achieve things and get things, but there's a reason why after a workout you feel so much more fulfilled, after a bout of studying, after striving for something for such a long time and achieving it, a degree for example, why that dopamine release feels so much better. It's because you've earned it. It's because you've done the necessary actions in order to reap that reward. Being in a relationship and actually having sex with your girlfriend is much better than watching some other naked woman through pixels on a screen, because the barrier to entry is much higher when you're with your girlfriend. Therefore, coming back a little bit. Whoa, got a bit sexual there. I've mentioned this before, but it's relevant here, so guys, don't roll your eyes if you watch the video about how to stop relapsing. What you have to understand about the brain is there is a homeostatic element of the brain between pain and pleasure, meaning that for each ounce of pain you experience, there is an equal and opposite feeling of pleasure, and vice versa. Hence, when you watch YouTube for 3 hours, you're tapping on the pleasure side of the equation so much that when you stop, your brain has to shift to the pain side, so you experience the complete opposite of everything you experienced when you was watching YouTube. If you do the reverse, so you tap on the pain side before you experience the pleasure, then it happens in a roundabout way. For example, you work out. You're tapping on the pain side, you're feeling, oh, this is a really tough workout, and then you stop, oh, endorphin release. Or you're studying and you're focusing, all of your notifications are going off, but you're like, no, I'm going to dedicate my mind to this task for the next hour. You stop and you think, oh, that was so good that I focused for that long. It's because your brain shifts back to the pleasure side to compensate for the pain. Earn your dopamine. Then, these two things in conjunction spark momentum, which creates a positive flywheel effect. You want flywheels to happen. So for example, this sets in motion a I can't help but logic. When you work out, the next logical step is to eat well. And then the next logical step is I need to drink more. Then, if I've worked out, I need to give my muscles time to repair. That means you sleep and then you work out. And it's this positive feedback loop. So after you have a shower or after you brush your teeth, you then have that positive momentum which you can carry into other activities. And then Maybe you do that for the rest of the day. Despite your grogginess, you brush your teeth and you shower in the morning, and then that makes you feel good. So then you sit down and you study, or you work for 2 hours, and then you're like, oh, I'm feeling like I need a bit of a break, so I'm going to do a workout. And then you think, oh, I'm feeling pretty tired. Then you have enough reason to actually fall asleep at night, rather than laying there thinking, oh, I didn't do too much today. I'm not that tired, so I can't sleep. But the most important thing is to not overdo it. You need to rest and replenish before you become depleted, so then it makes it easier to do the same thing tomorrow. Because sometimes it takes a few days or a week or a few weeks to get out of a rut. But if you continue this process, act first, earn your dopamine, create your momentum, rest and replenish, then making it easier to do it all again, you'll be out of the rut. No doubt about it. I would love to hear how you have got yourself out of ruts in the past. And if you're in a rut right now, how do you plan on getting out of it? Or just go down to the comments and vent about being in a rut and how annoying it is sometimes. But anyway, you're a human being. You're going to mess up. Ruts are coming. So as long as you understand how to get out of them, then that gives you a better chance at getting out of them and raising your vibration. I think that's it. Stay disciplined, playful, dangerous. Bit of a different energy in this video, but anyway, muchachos, muchas gracias, and get moving.